Hello, Ben here from Supercoach Insider. Here to bring you my inter-round 3 team progress. I know some of you are very excited for it. I'm getting messages. Swizz has put his up, Ben. What are you going to do? When are you bringing me yours? And I'm bringing it now. So I've just done a bit of a live react to the teams because that's really going to dictate what I'm going to do now. But speaking of dictating, SC Insider 100, please do like, subscribe, find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. And also please look on all the audio platforms as well, so Spotify, SoundCloud, etc. for our usual weekly podcast about Supercoach, the wonderful, wonderful game of Supercoach. Like, subscribe, please do follow. We also have a couple of new little sponsorships as well, so brought to you by BetU. You can find them on BetU.io, and I'll be doing a little bit of a podcast tomorrow to talk about that new partnership. But basically it's a betting platform with cryptocurrency, and you can actually earn some points as well. So they have a fantasy game, they're bringing up some other betting platforms, etc. as well. And I'll tell you why it does really resonate with us, because of that banter and the usual person-to-person betting that we do. Chris, myself, Swizz, we're still waiting on him to get into some of that bet player versus player action, which is why it really resonates with our style. Speaking of also resonating with our style as well, our man Fab as well has been hitting us up. I believe we have some Splash vodka on the way. So, you know, we love to get sponsored by different alcohols, or usually we have people that listen to the podcast shout us some money so we can have some nice and delicious beverages each and every podcast. And you know that we love to do it that way. So stay tuned for that one. Speaking of tuning, now let's talk about fine-tuning my team. Scored 2,483 last week. Very impressive week. So I'm now ranked 1,365. Unfortunately, Swizz and Chris are both beating me. Chris, the old man, like ranked 76 or something or other, which I knew I probably wouldn't start, extremely like with the world on fire. And the reason was because I did speak about how I started and how I started with. Hang on, let me just move this across a little bit if I can. How I started with Steel and Crips and a few other things. So when I brought Crips into my team, I had a little bit of extra money. There we go. So I had a little bit of extra money to burn, which meant that I actually went for a few more mid prices and had some expensive rookies on the bench. So I kind of figured that that might be the case a little bit. When we have a look, right, so with my team, Bruce is in this week, which is awesome because that means that Bruce is now the number 1 ruck, and he had about 40 hitouts or so last week with 20 touches, and he kicked a goal, 1 goal, 1. So that means that straight away I can put English into my forward line. Bruce will be on field, and McGovern, old man McGovern, is going to be gone from my team. So watch this happen live. When we have a look at my team, so De Koning is obviously being played at the moment. So I've got some choices to make. I was tossing up, I think O'Driscoll, makes a lot of money. Mead, I was considering getting rid of because of his 18 score last week, but he's named on the interchange this week. So I think it's kind of worth holding Mead if you can. The other thing is I don't really have a loophole this week. Dixon, we won't know until Saturday as to whether he's named, and that's Saturday night. So basically I think you might be able to try and VC someone before the Lions game, if you like. But you won't know if Dixon gets named, which probably he will. Then it's going to be really hard to kind of even try and loophole. We don't know about O'Driscoll. He was sub last week. It looks like Sarong didn't train today, so he might even get named. So I don't know if I'm going to really have a loophole this week, which is kind of a bit weird. I have to get rid of McGovern if Hayes plays. Hayes is one, if he gets named, you have to start him because he could make $100,000 in 1 week only. Plus, with Ryder being a bit fragile, etc., or if Ben King or any forward, Membry, King, etc., if they go down, then Hayes would be the one to come into that side this year, COVID included as well. So he's someone that could make you quite a lot of money over a few rounds. I just hope that he gets them all in one hit so I can get him in and get him out. Get in, get off, get out would be the way to go. So he's definitely someone that I'm looking to bring in my side. The other one is Bowie as well in that defensive line. So that's what I'm considering. Now, Whitfield's the big issue. Is it a bit of a beat up? It's one of those ones because he could be carrying an injury, but nobody knows. Everyone's having this big speculation. I think about 20,000 people have jumped off him, which is crazy. His percentage has gone down from like 50% to 37%, I think. 13% have jumped off. Yes, I would like to get a Lloyd in instead of Whitfield. I'd also like to get a Hall in instead of Whitfield. But I also don't feel it's worth me using my trade boost just to sideways a premium. So if I needed to have fixed 3 rookies and I felt that was the best way forward, then it would make more sense. Now, for me, if I wasn't going to go Bowie, then I could actually go McGovern down to Hayes, which would be the logical decision. And then I could go and bring in and upgrade Whitfield. Now, here's the only issue with Bowie as well, is that number one, I think he's now up to about, is it 17%? So a lot of people are bringing him in. Knowing my luck, if I don't bring him in, I think he's going to go really big. And it's one of those risk-reward ones that people that just trade him in might get lucky. I still think the role's there for him. He looked really good. Eye test, I thought he was really calm and composed. He was pick, I think, 21 a couple years ago, so he did his time in the VFL. People are like, oh, but he's only played 8 games. But also, he played a lot of VFL for Casey. So it's not like he's just come in fresh. He's just got drafted and now all of a sudden he's going to, pull it all together. He has done his time a little bit. The role is there, which it wasn't previously. So it's not like he's just started to perform. It's like, well, that role is his, and with Salem out, I think it's definitely one of those ones that he could do really well in. So do I expect him to go 153 again? No, I don't. But I think in the realm of somewhere between his first week and his second week would be realistic. And I think he could pull out some 80s or even get to 100. Again, likened that role, Chris was saying as well, likened to kind of a Caleb Daniel with the role he's sort of playing. And his decision-making kind of makes sense because he's not just trying to blast it away. He sees someone at the corner of his eye and he just chips it and hits a target. And all of a sudden, all that pressure is then released. So I think he's definitely someone that could mop up when you sort of have your levers and stuff coming back into side of May, they get the intercepts, or if it hits the ground, then I reckon Bowie will be there cleaning up the tails. So because I have a failed mid-pricer like McGovern, I think it makes sense for me to actually trade and bring him in, which is what I'd be looking to do this week. So for me, I'm kind of looking at going and bringing in Hayes for McGovern, which frees up cash. And that then, so complete that trade. So that brings up and frees up cash. Now, I would then have $196,000 in the bank, which is awesome. So from there, I was actually considering going Mead and jumping up to Bowie. The other one I was considering was Ward, but Ward's also named. So when you have a look at my lineup, it's one of those funny ones because I think O'Driscoll, has that defender mid-swing. If he doesn't play, it's also my only kind of loophole. Plus, I do trust that he will play throughout this season at some point and actually make me cash. Ward's a bit of a stickle one because he's kind of sat and stagnated a little bit, but he's still named. I still think he's going to do well. I still think he will improve as the season goes on. And it's kind of one of those funny ones because I still think Ward can make you 70 to 100,000. All he needs is one big score to get me up to 100,000, which is why it's a bit of an awkward situation for me. Now, the easiest decision is McGovern to Hayes, frees up some money. Now, I could actually sit on this money. I could upgrade Whitfield. I am a little bit concerned with Hinge and McCartan being my only real defenders because I don't want De Koning to have to be on field. So the idea is that with my team, because I went mid-pricer heavy, I could bank this cash, just use one trade only. I feel like I need Bowie, but I'm like, well, is he going to make $150,000 more than Ward? Probably not, but where Bowie does come into it is that I think it would be an easy one down, one up to a premium because he should make you a lot of cash. Even if he goes 80-80 the next 2 weeks, he's up 114,000. So he would get me an extra premium sooner. Plus, I can actually rely on him on score instead of, say, a McCartan or a Hinge. Then I can actually play him on field. Now, that would then get me more points per week I think he goes 80 kind of at a minimum. So that is the option I'm looking at. So get more points on field, and then that way gives me a bit of security because obviously I don't trust Hinge and McCartan 100%. Like, they're great, and I'm kind of touching on wood that each week that they're safe and they're fine and they're named and, all the rest of it. So it kind of gives me a little bit more security there. So what I was considering is then going, okay, well, if I trade out Ward, I can bring O'Driscoll into that midfield mix, and I can go and get, I didn't need to search for him. He's like the 12th highest defender. There we go. Complete trade. Now, I've still got 111,000 on this one. That keeps O'Driscoll as my loop. Ward, obviously, just being that more expensive player. So I could keep Ward and upgrade Mead. I could upgrade a Driscoll and keep Ward, which is a consideration. But for a $180,000 rookie, that's kind of not really firing. I'd rather keep some of those cheaper guys that probably will make you 100 to 150,000, hopefully, and go that way. And because the other consideration is that next week I'm going to need to pick up. I'm going to need to pick up Martin. So when you have a look at my side, which is also why I didn't actually trade out McGovern and just or try and bring, say, De Koning into the forward line. So that way, if I brought De Koning into the forward line, then all of a sudden I would have Dixon, Hayes, Martin, and De Koning. So I'd have to play Hayes or someone on field, which doesn't really work. So for me, it's going to be a real interesting scenario next week. I get to see Bruce for a week because he was kind of on my chopping block, but I think now that he's named number 1 ruck, I have to keep him. I'm extremely excited about that fact. So it's going to be interesting. If Dixon doesn't get named, I might have to just sideways trade a bloody 102 rookie, which kind of sucks. I get to see Mead for another week. McDonald sort of makes some cash. I get to see O'Driscoll for another week. Hopefully gets named. So it's going to be this real interesting scenario. But at least now I'm a little bit more happy in defense because I can put the emergency on, say, McCutton. Now, it does free up a couple of options for me. Number one is that if McCartan somehow goes massive and O'Driscoll isn't named, then I can try and switch him out with, say, a Whitfield or someone or other and put them on field. Even the way Whitfield's going, maybe I'll just take him off the field. So I guess we'll see there. And that's how I'm kind of looking because now my defense, I feel, looks a little bit more safe. There's midfield spots. I've got a couple of bench options here, but I've definitely got a lot of swing players that I can bring through. Dacos and Horne-Francis, I'm kind of happy with how they are there. Horne-Francis, I wouldn't mind having someone to loop him with, though, so it's going to be really interesting. That'll probably help up next week. So if I go Dixon to Martin, then basically Hayes would go into that ruck spot, and Rochelle stays into the forward. If I end up getting rid of a Mead or an O'Driscoll, then Rochelle comes into the midfield mix. I've got to look up how to say his name, guys. Sorry, I've just been busy. Next week. And so he will then push up into that forward line, into the midfield, and then give me a little bit of loophole swing, hopefully, to be able to, with Horne-Francis, as to who goes into that midfield spot. So Brody is good news, I think, with Old Man Mundy still out and Sarong possibly injured. So if he doesn't get named, then I think Brody will absolutely dominate again, hopefully, against West Coast as well. So I think that's really good news there. Cherry had an awesome day out against West Coast. I think he is definitely someone that you could consider bringing into your side. So if you have a mid-pricer that's broken, then Cherry is probably the best one to bring into your forward line. If you have a mid-pricer that's broken, then Bowie would be the best one in your defensive line. Outside of that, I'm keeping Berry. I think Berry, he tagged a little bit last week. He was on like 60 at halftime the first week and then fizzled out. I think he's someone that'll get better, and he is notorious for kind of having some 70s and then banging out a big 130 out of nowhere. So his ceiling is still there. I'm waiting for it to happen, so I'm kind of holding on to him. I'm not going to use a trade boost, I feel, to sideways like a Berry or to sideways a Whitfield. I have toyed with the notion of getting rid of Whitfield to a Hall or to a Lloyd, which I can afford. So it's one of those funny ones because I think Whitfield, even if he starts just plotting out some 80s, I think he'll drop about 70,000. So it's not the worst case scenario. He was already discounted. So at a worst, I still think he's probably averages 100 from here on in. I didn't watch the game too closely, so I know some people weren't too upset, but he butchered the ball. He was horrible, and he still got a 70. So even if he can chip away and get me some 90 to 100s, I'm kind of liking the fact that 20,000 people have jumped off and 13% don't have him now. So maybe, and I think a lot of those top players are kind of dumping and running. So if he does start to really come out and perform, then I would actually be ahead of the rest of the pack there. So nothing too crazy on my end this week. I'm kind of waiting for that assault. My strategy coming in was definitely to try and maximize the rookies and some of these mid-prices because I plan on saving some of these boosts to really launch and get some more premiums early. So when Brody starts to kind of chip away and Bowie and like Horn Francis, I'd really be keen to kind of move on pretty quick. So if there's an opportunity to kind of go one down, one up, or even do a couple of different moves, I'm keen to really target Steele. Number one, Gorn I was really keen on targeting, but I'll probably just wait and see now. Wait to see him get a little bit of confidence to see if he is going to be that number two ruck for the rest of the year. Rucks are a bit funny this year, so it's going to be interesting. The fact that Bruce is named in the ruck as the number one ruck, I think he now makes, hopefully, a decent amount of cash. So that then allows English to come forward for me. And it sort of then ties in the fact that I probably have to try and look at one of these other rookies to get rid of in order to bring Martin in next week. And I think Martin will play. And if he does well this week, he's going to be another must-have. So for my team, the only two must-haves were Hayes this week if he gets named, which he probably will, and Martin next week. Now, if they do me any luck, they'll put Hayes as the sub, and fingers crossed, they might do that in case Ryder goes down and gets injured or gets tight. So it's going to be interesting there. But if he's sub, then I will not bring in Hayes. I would just go McGovern to Bowie straight up as my only trade, and that's pretty much where I would stop with it. And then I'll try and look at Martin next week and then kind of go from there. So wait and see until tomorrow. I'll probably reverse these trades for now just because I know you can do a rolling reverse, but I'm a bit paranoid with that stuff, so I probably won't do it. Captain this week, I'd love to go VC Neil into Cripps now, but the only issue is that I don't know if these guys are named yet, so Dixon or O'Driscoll, so I guess we'll wait and see. I think McRae might actually get some attention from Callum Mills tonight because he gave some attention to other people last week, so it's going to be an interesting one. They probably play a similar kind of style, or Dunkley he might go to. So it's going to be an interesting one there. I'm not sure how they will go. Geelong mids didn't go that great against them, so I'm probably just going to hold off McRae, I think, for this one. I'll probably VC Neil. If that fails out, then I might VC Took into Neil if I'm not sure about that loophole stuff yet. So I guess we'll wait and see. Probably VC Took into Neil will probably be the way that I go, and then just hope that on that Friday night, maybe, if Dixon, I can't even do that with Dixon. I guess I'll have to wait and see. So it really has to be O'Driscoll to be able to get him on field, because I'm pretty sure GWS even play Saturday at afternoon, so I won't even be able to do that. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Maybe a bit of blind faith. I guess we'll see. Anyway, let us know what you're thinking. Let us know who you have as captains. Are you following me, or are you getting off the Whitfield? Interesting to know, and we'll catch you soon. Bye.